Back with us now, former acting ICE Director Ron Vitiello. Sir, can you help us sort this out? We've got a group of families who lost relatives to crimes committed by illegal immigrants. They now want to meet with the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, saying they deserve a seat at the table to be part of his decision-making as the administration rewrites the rules for ICE and how ICE is going to arrest and deport criminal illegal aliens. But they're saying they're not being listened to. They have yet to be invited. What's happening here? What do you think?
I agree that they should have a seat at the table. That's their First Amendment right. We all have a right to address the government with grievances that we have. And who knows better the tragedy of illegal aliens who are also criminals in the country? Who knows more about the risks we all see with a porous and uncontrolled border and an immigration system that doesn't have integrity? And Don Rosenberg, one of the people mentioned in the piece, he's got a tragic story about how his son was murdered and made worse by sanctuary policies in the state of California and some jurisdictions who actively work against ICE's mission. In the backdrop, this administration has changed ICE priorities to only include threats to public safety, somebody who just crossed the border, or a convicted aggravated felon, leaving every other criminal in the pipeline on the table. And if ICE wants to contemplate arresting or encountering somebody outside of those categories, they have to have permission from Washington, D.C. So they're not listening to people who know what's going on. Certainly the employee base wouldn't have asked for that set of priorities. Under the Trump administration, he removed the priorities that existed under Obama. But what the president said was, anybody that's here illegally needs to be addressed. They need to get their day in court. They need to have due process. That's in line with my entire experience as a Border Patrol agent and the brief time that I was with ICE. People who are in the country illegally need to be dealt with, and taking all of those criminals out of the pipeline for removal is not a good idea. It's putting us all at risk.
I think the folks out there just don't get it. You're not allowed to just walk, if you're from another country, just walk into any airport and walk into the country out of that airport. So, you know, Canada has border laws, so does Mexico, countries in Africa and Asia. You know, so that's the debate there. But, you know, the Homeland Security Secretary has been meeting with stakeholders, including ICE officials, ICE workers, illegal immigrant rights advocates. But why not meet with the families who suffered the most? Is it too much for them to handle? Or is it just, do they undercut everything that the other side of the aisle has been saying?
Certainly, it would be uncomfortable for them to meet with these families and hear those stories. I met with many of them at the White House as the president hosted them. And those are real tragedies. But it's clear that the current policy is informed by special interest groups who believe in an open border, who believe in no immigration enforcement in the interior. And you can see that by the choices that they made in the budget request that the president made and this reprioritization through the department for ICE and its enforcement removal operations. And so, again, they're not listening to people who want a secure border and an immigration system that has integrity, and I think they should.
Washington Post is reporting now that ICE is averaging 1 arrest per officer every 2 months. ICE arrests have dropped dramatically. What does this mean for the future of the nation's security here?
Well, it's going to put more pressure on the border because people that have criminal records, people who intend to do us harm, and other migrants that are coming to the border know that once they evade the Border Patrol, it is highly unlikely that they're going to be, well, it's under the policy now, they will not be arrested by ICE. They're outside of the priority regime. And so that encourages more people to come. And you know that the cartels and the smugglers are exploiting these policies and encouraging people to leave and leave now because of this change in enforcement priorities and a lack of enforcement outside of the border region.
Well, doesn't Congress swear an oath? Doesn't the president and the vice president swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and protect the country?
It's a very good point. No one took the law on the books that says if you're in the country illegally, you're subject to deportation and removal. No one took that law off the books. There's been no change in the Immigration and Nationality Act. Yet ICE is prohibited without permission from Washington, D.C. to arrest somebody simply because they're here illegally.
Ron Vitiello, thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. Come back soon.